Okay, this is a debate about an alleged contradiction in the Bible. The brother, what's your YouTube account? SAB9 what?
SAB631014.
All right, and Keeper Israel on the channel Keeper Israel. So go ahead and state your claim.
All right. Well, definition of contradiction, so we need to get that clarified again. That is opposing statement. A statement or making of a statement that opposes or disagrees with somebody or something. So this is what I'm claiming. I'm claiming that one of the disciples is making a contradictory statement of what he saw from the other three disciples. That would be Luke, Mark, and where's the bloody other one? Matthew. John is making a contradictory statement from the three other disciples, Mark, Matthew, and Luke. All right. So the contradictory statement is what John saw versus Mark, Matthew, and Luke. So I'm going to read. Now, brother, this is very difficult. Okay. So I'm going to read from John 18, verse 1, where Jesus goes to the garden, and then Judas comes in with a band of soldiers to lay their hands on Jesus. So John 18, verse 1 states, having said these things, Jesus went out with his disciples across the winter torrent of Kidron to where there was a garden, and he and his disciples entered into it. Now Judah, his betrayer, also knew the place, because Jesus had many times met there with his disciples. Therefore Judas took the soldier band and officers of the chief priests and of the Pharisees and came there with torches and lamps and weapons. Right. Jesus, therefore, knowing all the things coming upon him. Stop. Now I want to add this from another chapter, an earlier chapter from John, about Jesus knowing, of making that statement, knowing all things coming upon. This is John chapter 13, verse 21. And it states, when Jesus had thus said, he was troubled in spirit and testified and said, verily, verily, I say unto you, that one of you shall betray me. Then the disciples looked one on another, doubting of whom he spake. Now there was leaning on Jesus' bosom one of his disciples, whom Jesus loved. Simon Peter therefore beckoned to him that he should ask who it shall be of whom he spoke. And then lying on Jesus' breast said unto him, Lord, who is it? Jesus answered, he it is to whom I shall give a sop. A sop, by definition, means bread soaked in liquid. So he's taking a piece of bread, then soaking it in liquid, and then giving it. So it says, when Jesus answered, it is he to whom I shall give a sop when I have dipped it. And when he had dipped the sop, he gave it to Judas Iscariot, the son of Simon. And after the sop, Satan entered into him. Then said Jesus unto him, that thou do quickly. Now no man at the table knew for what intent he spoke this unto him. For some of them thought, because Judas had the bag, that Jesus had said unto him, buy those things that we have need of against the feast, or that he shall give something to the poor. Then he, having received the sop, went immediately out, and it was night. So I'm establishing that Jesus knew that he was betrayed. He gave the signal to disciples that this is the man that's going to betray me. All right, so I want to establish that beforehand. Now, also remember that Jesus said he knew all things that were coming upon that particular night. Now, the next one is Mark, chapter 14, verse 43. And immediately while he was yet speaking, Judas, one of the 12, arrived, and with him a crowd of swords and clubs from the chief priests and the scribes and older men. That's in sync with John. And now his betrayer had given them an agreed sign, saying, whoever it is I kiss, this is he. Take him into custody and lead him away safely. And he came straight up and approached him and said, Rabbi, and kissed him very tenderly. So they laid their hands upon him and took him away into custody. All right? So now I'm going to read the next verse. This is from Luke chapter 22, verse 47. While he was yet speaking, look, a crowd, and a man called Judas, one of the 12, was going before them, and he approached Jesus to kiss him.
What book is that?
This is Luke chapter 22.
Okay, because my phone hung up, and I missed whatever you were saying, so I had to call back in.
All right, call back in, brother.
No, I just did. Can you repeat all that you just said?
Oh, from starting back from.
Recorded. Yeah.
From where? From John?
No, when you left John, you said Jesus knew all things, and you were going back into another account of what happened.
I went back. I went back to establish this, that Jesus knew, right, the things that were coming upon him. I went further to John chapter 13.
Right, I got that part.
Okay, so you got that part. So I established the reason why Jesus knew. All right. So now I went to the first one. I went to Mark.
Okay, yeah, start from Mark. Right. Okay. I missed Mark.
Okay, so Mark chapter 14, verse 43. And immediately while he was yet speaking, Judas, one of the 12, arrived, and with him a crowd with swords and clubs from the chief priests and the scribes and the older men. Okay, so far in sync. Now his betrayer had given them an agreed sign, saying, whoever it is I kiss, this is he. Take him into custody and lead him away safely. And he came straight up and approached him and said, Rabbi, and kissed him very tenderly. So they laid their hands upon him and took him away into custody. Okay, that's an eyewitness account of what Mark saw. All right. The second eyewitness account is from Luke, chapter 22, verse 47. So Luke is stating that while he was yet speaking, look, a crowd, and the man called Judas, one of the 12, was going before them, and he approached Jesus to kiss him. But Jesus said to him, Judas, do you betray the Son of a Man with a kiss? Now this confirms John's account where Jesus said he knew what was coming. So John asks a rhetorical question. I mean, Jesus asked a rhetorical question, which he already knew the answer to. So he's asking it in the form of a question, but it's a rhetorical question. All right, Judas, do you betray the Son of Man with a kiss? He already knew. All right, so that's an agreement with John. It's an agreement with Mark. All right, now I'm going to go to Matthew chapter 26, verse 47. All right, and while he was yet speaking, look, Judas, one of the 12, came and with him a great crowd with swords and clubs from the chief priests and older men of the people. So all three disciples are seeing the same thing. All right. Now his betrayer had given them a sign saying, whoever it is I kiss, this is he, take him into custody. So far with Mark, Luke, and Matthew, they're all in agreement and kissed him very tenderly. But Jesus said to him, fella, for what purpose are you present? Now, sort of a contradiction is, can Jesus say the same two things at the same time? Can he say, fella, for what purpose are you present? And then say, where's it at? And then say, where am I looking at? Should be, okay, Judas, do you betray the Son of Man with a kiss? That's a rhetorical question. He uses the term fella, but then he says Judas. Can he say both of them at the same time and one, while talking to Judas right in front of himself? That's left up. You'll probably discuss that. Okay. Then they came forward and laid their hands on Jesus and took him into custody. So we have three agreements on these three disciples, Matthew, Luke, and Mark. Now let's finish up with John, what he said he saw. All right? So it says, Jesus, therefore, knowing all the things coming upon him, went forth and said to them, whom are you looking for? Now this is the first contradiction. 3 of the disciples said that Judas came out from the crowd and walked over to Jesus. Now this one, John says, well, when Judas and the crowd came in, Jesus stepped forth to them and said, whom are you looking for? They answered, Jesus of Nazareth. He said to them, I am he. Now Judas' betrayer, which I already established from chapter 13 of John, all right, Jesus identified him as his betrayer. All right. Now Judas' betrayer was also standing with them. However, when he said to them, I am he, they drew back and fell to the ground. Therefore he asked again, whom are you looking for? This is the second time he's asking, whom are you looking for? They said, Jesus of Nazareth. Jesus answered, I told you I am he. Therefore it is I you are looking for, let these go. Now, I'm not going to continue on with the rest of it. So the contradiction, again, is the story, which you're familiar with now. John does not state that he saw Judas coming out from the crowd and coming up to Jesus and kissing him on the cheek to identify him. All right? It says that John states that Jesus stepped forward and asked him who you're looking for. All right, and once Jesus identified himself as who they were looking for, then it nullified the reason why Judas would kiss Jesus. It will nullify that, but he did it twice, and there's no mention of the kiss in John's account, and one cannot put words in the scriptures where there are none. So I want to stop there and then have your response to that. I'm ending it now.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, brother. Let me explain what happened there. Okay. So just want to reiterate what the contradiction is, just to keep it on the audience mind as I'm reading and clearing up the scriptures, explaining the scriptures, that they can see that none of this is, the contradiction is not taking place. The contradiction, like basically what you said, is the act of saying something that is opposite or very different in meaning to something else. So Matthew, Mark, Luke said Judas stepped out from the crowd and approached Jesus. You're saying John contradicted that. So according to contradiction, John would have to say something different. From what I get out of that, a contradiction would have to be, if John is contradicting Matthew, Mark, and Luke, I would think that John would have to say the opposite. Jesus stepped out of a crowd and kissed Judas. Like, that's the opposite of Judas kissing Jesus. Like, that's what I get out of a contradiction, something opposite. So had John said Jesus stepped out of a crowd and kissed Judas, then to me that would be a contradiction. It's the very opposite of what Judas had supposed to do. So the second definition is a difference or disagreement between two things, which means that both cannot be true. So all I have to do is prove that Judas didn't do anything opposite, or the story wasn't opposite. The story of Matthew, Mark, and Luke concerning Judas stepping out of the crowd was not the opposite of John account, and also just have to prove that both accounts can be true at the same time. So I just got to prove that Matthew, Mark, and Luke is not opposing John account, and John's not opposing Matthew, Mark, and Luke account. Jesus stepping out of the crowd. So let me explain that. Matthew chapter 26, verse 48, it says, "Now the traitor had given them a signal. He said, 'The one I kiss is the man you want. Arrest him.' Then Judas quickly stepped out to Jesus and said, 'Hello, Rabbi,' and kissed him. Jesus said to him, 'Friend, why are you here?' Then some men came forward, took hold of Jesus, and arrested him. Suddenly, one of the men with Jesus pulled out his sword and cut off the ear of the chief priest's servant. So now, this is a question I'm giving the audience, not you, brother. So now I would say to the audience, from what I read, what is the signal that the traitor gave according to Matthew? It was a kiss. Then I would have to ask, when did Judas step up to Jesus? After the signal or after the kiss? So keep that in their minds. Matthew chapter 14, verse 44. Now the traitor had given them a signal. He said, the one I kissed is the man you want. Arrest him and guard him closely as you take him away. Then Judas quickly stepped up to Jesus and said, Rabbi, and kissed him. Some men took hold of Jesus and arrested him. One of those standing there pulled out his sword and cut off the ear of the chief priest's servant. So again, the two same questions would be, what is the signal that the traitor gave according to Mark? It was the kiss. When did Judas step up to Jesus according to Mark? After the kiss or after the signal. The signal is the kiss. Luke chapter 22, verse 47, 48, and 49. While he was still speaking to the disciples, a crowd arrived. The man called Judas, one of the 12 apostles, was leading them. He came close to Jesus to kiss him. So Luke said that he came close to Jesus to kiss him. Verse 48, Jesus said to him, Judas, do you intend to betray the Son of Man with a kiss? The men who were there or with Jesus saw what was going to happen. So they asked him, Lord, should we use our swords to fight? One of the disciples cut off the right ear of the chief priest's servant. Now, once again, the rhetorical question, but the actual question to the audience is this. Luke did not say that Judas kissed Jesus, but rather that Judas came close to kiss Jesus. And even Jesus said, do you intend on kissing me, according to Luke? As to say that Judas did not kiss him yet. Okay, so make that clear. So contextually speaking, after reading Matthew, Mark, and Luke, I can conclude that the sign of betrayal was the kiss. Luke does not make mention that Jesus was arrested, like Matthew and Mark. Does that mean that Luke does not believe that Jesus was arrested? Emphatically no, because Luke tells us that one of Jesus' disciples cut off the right ear of the chief priest's servant, and that happened after Jesus was arrested. So let's move on.
What about verse 54 of Luke?
Okay, can I finish? Then you can do that. Okay.
Yes.
That's the whole point of I'm saying I'm done, then you go. John chapter 18, verse 3, because I don't want the people listening to my side don't get the whole side, right, and they're going to get partial. So let them understand everything, and maybe they might have the same question you have. Or maybe you can point them towards that question. Okay. So John chapter 18, verse 3, and then you can read verse 54 if you think that's have any relevance. John chapter 18, verse 3. So Judas took a troop of soldiers and the guards from the chief priests and Pharisees and went to the garden. They were carrying lanterns, torches, and weapons. Jesus knew everything that was going to happen to him. So he went to meet them and asked, who are you looking for? They answered him, Jesus from Nazareth. Jesus told them, I am he. Judas, who betrayed him, was standing with the crowd. When Jesus told them, I am he, the crowd said, Jesus from Nazareth. Jesus replied, I told you that I am he. So if you are looking for me, let these other men go. In this way, what Jesus had said came true. I lost none of those that you gave me. Simon Peter had a sword. He drew it, attacked the chief priest's servant, and cut off the servant's of the right ear. The servant's name was Malchus. So John points out that Judas was still standing in the crowd, as to say that he did not step up to kiss Jesus just yet, and that this was apparently before the sign of betrayal by kiss. But John did not leave out that Jesus was kissed, because he mentioned that Jesus was betrayed. And we all know by now, irrefutably, that the betrayal was the kiss and the kiss was the sign. Therefore, John did not contradict anything Matthew, Mark, or Luke have said. He just gave the same account from a different perspective. Nothing John said opposed or spoke against or denied anything Matthew, Mark, or Luke said. John was telling the story, and he was telling the story by pointing out, when he mentioned Judas, he's saying Judas, the guy who betrayed Jesus. He was going on to the story. But at that point in the story, Judas didn't betray Jesus just yet. So this is why he didn't mention the kiss from the story he's telling. But the key word, when he said Judas who betrayed him, that was an action that already took place. So by John saying Judas who betrayed him, he's already believing that we know that Jesus betrayed, that we know that Judas betrayed Jesus with a kiss. So he's speaking from that perspective. I'm done.
All right. First of all, the correction. I already established from John 13 that when Jesus gave him the sop and sent him out, he knew he betrayed him. So Jesus knew that he was going to come back later on with a group of people. So the moment Judas left, right, is when Jesus knew he betrayed him. So then Judas goes, wherever he goes, he finds the people, whether they gathered there already or not, we don't know, all right, but there had to be some gathering point or some meeting point where Judas meets these particular people. Then they come. Since Judas said he already knew where they're going to be at, since he was already there, all right, they just went, they were dining, then they believe at dinner, and then Judas left, knowing where they were going to be at. So he left, went to wherever he's supposed to meet those who were going to arrest Jesus, and then come back. So Jesus already knew all this. So when he saw the crowd coming, he knew exactly the reason why they were coming. So this is where it states, when John states, now Judas's betrayer was also standing with them. Right, standing with them. That means that they are over somewhere, a group of them, standing, and Jesus standing in front of them. Now, that answers that. That doesn't state pertaining to betrayer where it's talking about the kiss. It doesn't say that. It already chapter 13 already establishes that Jesus knew Judas was going to betray him. So that's why he used that language. All right. Now, you mentioned in Luke. Luke also mentions in chapter 54, he states, after Simon Peter cut off the ear, right, then in chapter 54 in this Bible it states, then they arrested him and led him off. All right, so you stated in Luke, it doesn't mention that he was arrested. In this, I'm reading it right here. It mentions that it says, chapter 54, then they arrested him and led him off and brought him into the house of the high priest. But Peter was following at a distance. But you just said in your statement, that's why I cut you off, because I wanted it clear. I heard that you said that. So you made a mistake. You said that in Luke, there was no arrest. Maybe that was a mistake that you made. Fine, I grant you that. All of them say that that after Judas gave Jesus a kiss, they came upon him and laid their hands on him. That means they were taking him into custody. That's what that means. So once, let me see. Okay, so chapter 12 of John says, then the soldier band and the military commanders and the officers of the Jews seized Jesus and bound him. So this is John chapter 18, verse 12. So they're identifying that this one states that there's so many contradictions in the order. All right. Now, John states that once Jesus identified himself as, I'm the Jesus that you're looking for, then Simon Peter cuts off the ear. All right. And then that unfolds. Then in John it says, after that happens, then the soldiers came and they laid hands on him. All right. Where the other disciples stated that once Judas came, now you said in Luke, okay, you said Luke saw that Judas came near to Jesus as if he was going to kiss him. Is that correct? Hello?
What does it read?
No, I'm saying that with Matthew, you say Matthew and Mark, what you said was Luke said. Repeat what you said with Luke, please, chapter 22, verse 47.
I'm going to repeat it when I go. But just make your point.
No, what I'm saying to you, you stated in Luke, another contradiction. You say Luke states that Judas didn't actually kiss him. He came up to kiss him as if he was going to kiss him, right? Now, Mark and Matthew said they saw the action of Judas kissing him, actually kissing him. So can you see two things at the same time? Can two disciples see Judas walking up to Jesus and kissing him in action very tenderly, and then one disciple say, well, I didn't see Judas actually kiss him, or he came close to him as if he was going to kiss him, but he never kissed him. So here goes another contradiction. If this is a live event, if this is happening in real life, can those two things happen at the same time? Can two people say, okay, I saw him kiss him, and one say, hold on, no, he looked like he stepped up, but he didn't really kiss. He was about to kiss him. Can two of those things happen in the same space of time? I mean, unless, like he came up to him first, asked if he was going to kiss him, then stopped, and then kissed him. I mean, that could be, that could happen. You can walk up to somebody. Well, why would he stop? The instruction was that Judas said, the one that I kiss is the one that you are to take in custody. So Matthew and Mark state what he did. Kiss him. All right, not about to kiss him, not almost kiss him, but kissed him. Then Luke says, as you said in your thing, that he walked up close to him, was about to kiss him, but doesn't kiss him. So because it's supposed to happen in real life. Whether it's 2,000 years ago or right now in this present time, right now, in 2014, if someone says they kissed you, that doesn't mean they almost kissed you. That means they kissed you, or they didn't kiss you. So which one is it? So I'm going to stop there and listen to your response.
Thank you, brother. I didn't want to be rude and interrupt you. That's why I didn't want to speak when you asked me to speak. So I just want you to go on unhindered and uninterrupted. So I like the same respect while I attempt to explain that, right. Matthew and Mark said that Judas stepped up and kissed Jesus. Luke said he stepped up to kiss Jesus. That's not a contradiction. Just want to explain real fast, because let's go back to what contradiction means. It means that the statements has to oppose. So you know that oppose means opposite. So for it to be a contradiction, Matthew and Mark will have to say Judas kissed Jesus, and the opposing statement would be Judas did not kiss Jesus. That would be an opposing statement. That would be a contradiction. By him saying he came close to kiss Jesus, that's not a contradiction, and it doesn't oppose what Matthew and Mark says. I'll explain real easily. An analogy is, if I'm witnessing a car accident, it happened. Two people say, yeah, we all agreed that the car crashed. We all say he got out of the car. Just because two said he took off his seatbelt first and got out the car, and I didn't mention the seatbelt, that just means the angle from where I'm looking at. I didn't see the seatbelt activity. So Matthew, Mark, and Luke giving the same account, it's fair to say that they probably was not standing next shoulder to shoulder each other. So that's why Luke said he came close to kiss Jesus. He didn't actually see the kiss. He didn't want to lie because he didn't see it. But he's saying that it was close enough, like he was going to kiss him. He just didn't witness the kiss himself. And I stand corrected on the soldiers arresting him. That was just a verse error on my part. Right. They arrested him. That was not really my point for saying that. My point for mentioning the arrest was that Matthew, Mark, and Luke in the stories themselves was mentioning few things that others didn't mention. For example, in Matthew 26, Matthew's account was, then Judas quickly stepped up to Jesus and said, "Hello, Rabbi," and kissed him. And then Jesus said, "Friend, why are you here?" You know, Matthew added more to that. Luke, Mark, and John didn't say that. John mentions who actually cut off the ear of the right chief servant. You know, his ear. He said it was Peter. Then he even mentioned the chief servant, the priest's chief servant, whose ear got cut off. Only John mentioned that. He said Malchus. So just because one person gives more insight or one person lacked the information that the other person gained doesn't mean it's a contradiction. Once again, to the accident. We're not going to see everything the same. You know, when a car crashes, I'm probably looking at the tires. He's probably looking at the guy. He's probably looking at the back end, you know. So if my attention is focused on the tires, I'm going to be able to give more detailed description of what happened to the tires. If he's looking at the person himself, he's going to be able to give more detailed information what happened to the person. And if he's looking at the back end of the car, it's like a referee when you're playing basketball. One ref job is to look at the line to see you step out. The other referee job is to look at the player himself to see if he traveled or got fouled. The other referee job is to look at the clock. So that's all. Not that the statements contradict each other, that one's going to give more information than the other because they're not looking at the same thing. You know, they're not synchronized as far as their perspective. So that was my explanation to that. And I just want to reiterate that the two kiss thing is not a contradiction because after oppose, don't oppose. Just that Luke said he came close, didn't really confirm the kiss, but he's saying it looked like they was about to kiss or the kiss was going to take place. He might have, from his angle, maybe a soldier arrested him at that point, so he didn't see the kiss. I don't know how that played out. So, but that's not a contradiction. That was very, you know, that it can happen like that. So that's all I got to prove, that they both can happen. The contradiction means that they both cannot happen. I just got to prove they both can happen. So now when you went to Jesus and John already foretelling that Judas will betray Jesus in an earlier chapter, 5 chapters earlier, but John still got to tell the story. He still got to tell the story. It doesn't mean that John didn't know. He's telling the story for us to know. So he still got to tell the story. Same way Moses had told his story. Moses knew what would happen, you know, after Genesis, but he still got to tell Genesis in this, you know, chronology. He still got to explain event for event. So John had to explain for us who did not know event for event. So that's not a contradiction either. So would you like to conclude so we can wrap it up?
Yeah, well, a contradiction is that which is opposing. But contradictions are real life. We're taking a real life scenario as if it would happen. So if I'm coming up to you, right, and I say I'm going to shake you, and if I'm a group of brothers and I'm stepping up to you, I say, you know what, I'm going to identify you by shaking your hand, all right? Now, I come out from the brothers, step up to you, and I shake your hand, all right? Now, you're making a lot of assumptions. All these disciples are taking it from the account of when they are coming in. So don't speak for the disciples. They're stating that they are seeing the same thing, right, that these group of people are coming in. Now, not all the people are going to step up to Jesus all at once, all right? Judas is coming from whether they're standing 5 feet or 10 feet away. Most likely, in a real case scenario, they're not going to be coming right up upon you. They'll be at a good distance to allow Judas to walk up, right, where if I'm coming to you, the brother's going to be standing back a little bit, right, so I can walk up to you. All right, they're not all going to be coming especially at nighttime. You have to remember when this is happening. This is happening at nighttime when it's dark. All right, so you really can't see very well in the dark, and they had either a fire or torches, but they didn't have much light. All right, so this is the reason why they had to carry lamps and torches, because this is 2,000 years ago. All right, so Judas has to identify, first of all, this is nighttime, so most likely they're not going to see Jesus because it's dark. So Judas would have to come out to look for who Jesus is. Whether Jesus, and then once they see him, once Judas sees him, all right, then he can approach him to kiss him. Because it's nighttime. It's not the daytime. It's night. All right? So we have to, it's supposed to happen in reality. All right? So if you understand what that situation was back 2,000 years ago, all right, if you go into any forest, all right, with a flashlight or just any forest you go into, or any open space that's dark, that doesn't have any electrical lights around, all right, how are you going to see? You're going to need something. Now, if the person's at a distance, either you flash your light, but if you have a torch or a torch like that, you're not going to see that person far away. You have to come up to that person within a distance in order to see their face, to recognize who they are. Unless they're wearing clothes that uniquely are theirs, that doesn't identify them with anybody else. But it doesn't say Jesus wore anything different from any of the disciples to distinguish him. So Judas would have to come up, look to see who Jesus is, then kiss him to identify this is the man that you're looking for, because this is 2,000 years ago at nighttime. All right? So the disciples are given their account from the time they are walking in. All right? This is where they all give their account from, of watching the crowd, this group come in. So do you actually think that wherever the disciples are at, when they see this big crowd come in, that they're just going to be standing where they're at? No, they're going to move closer to Jesus. That will be any situation. If you see a large group of people coming in at nighttime and you see Jesus wherever he's at, they're going to all move close to Jesus and sort of to protect him. They're not going to be standing around and just, no. If they're his disciples, that's what you would normally do. You will close ranks. So most likely, if you're going to speculate, that these disciples were close to Jesus when they saw this crowd come in with torches and swords and that type of thing. So you can imagine that they're going to close ranks. All right. So that's a logical assumption to make. And so the disciples will be right next to Jesus or close to him to see what would happen. They were not going to be standing 50 feet away and just staying there and watching what's going on. All right? So most likely they would close ranks and come in close to Jesus. And most likely the crowd will come in and stop at a distance to allow Judas to come out and walk over to where they are so he can look and find Jesus and then come over to kiss him. That's real life. And so again, you can't make assumptions and put words in the mouth of the disciples when they didn't say it. John never said that. His account was that when the crowd came in, Jesus, knowing why they're there, he came out and stepped towards them and said, "Who are you looking for?" And then said again, it's supposed to be real life. Let's imagine, how did it happen first? Okay, let's take a real nice, because you have to put like you was trying to argue with me pertaining to some of the scriptures say, it states that someone cut off the slave's ear with a sword, right? 3 disciples said that. They didn't give the names of the disciple or the slave, but one says, John identifies the disciple as Simon Peter and the slave as Malachi. It's his name, I believe, right? But that's no contradiction. I understand that. It's not a contradiction, all right, because they're just giving more information about who the slave is or who the disciple is. So that's clear that's not a contradiction, all right? The contradiction is the action that took place. The actions have to correlate. And so, how do you think this in real life? Okay, Jesus comes out and says, "Whom are you looking for?" All right, they answer, "Jesus of Nazareth." "I am he." "Whom are you looking for?" Jesus of Nazareth, I am he. So he identifies himself. Then does Judas walk out to give Jesus a kiss to identify himself? Well, does he do it that way? Since Jesus already identified himself to the people who came there to get him, then what would be the purpose of Judas now coming out to say, okay, now I'm going to walk over to Jesus to give him a kiss to identify of who he is, because that's what he stated. He stated that the person that I kiss is the man that you need to take in custody, Jesus of Nazareth, the one that you're looking for. This is the purpose of him doing that. So now, or just put it the opposite. Does Judas come and walk out, then kiss Jesus to identify him, right? Kiss him on the cheek, and then Jesus steps to the crowd after Judas does that and says, whom are you looking for? And they say, Jesus of Nazareth. Now, earlier, it was already established that Judas said that he was going to kiss him to identify. So once Judas kissed him and they saw it, then they knew who the man they were looking for. And Jesus already knew that. So now would Jesus after that say, well, whom were you looking for? Jesus of Nazareth. Well, then he asks again. So can those scenarios happen at one time? I don't think so. That's the contradiction. They can't happen in real life. So I want to end that on that note.
Peace of week. So just grant me the respect that I granted you. Just don't interrupt at all till I'm done. Now, once again, a contradiction means a statement that opposes another statement. Okay, and from the word oppose, we get opposite. So whether Luke actually seen the kiss or not, if he said Jesus Christ came close to John, or John came close, Judas came close to Jesus Christ to kiss him. Okay, it is possible that he could have been grabbed. That's why he didn't see the kiss. But he did make mention that the kiss was probably going to happen, or at least they came close to each other to kiss. And he also emphatically mentioned that Jesus Christ, or that Judas came close to kiss Jesus. So he insinuated the point that Judas' intentions were to kiss Christ. It is possible that he could have been shoved. It's possible that he had the wrong angle. There's many possibilities to explain why he didn't confirm the actual kiss. That's not an opposal. I just missed it. That's all. And that's just because I didn't see the seatbelt on the driver when they crashed doesn't mean he didn't have one. It doesn't mean I oppose the other testimonials that he did have a seatbelt. It's just that I did not see it. But I can say that he fidgeted something over there as though he had a seatbelt on. Like Luke said, Judas went to Jesus as though he was going to kiss him. But just because you don't confirm it doesn't mean you contradict the other accounts. All right? So from there, you mentioned a few other things. That's why I wanted to stay on one thing. So I can't really recall everything, but I'll try my best. So, okay.
Brother, I want to say let me
finish.
I thought you were finished. Okay, good.
No, I didn't say I'm done. Let me finish entirely. So, and plus I'm wrapping it up anyway. After we end the recording, then we can talk about whatever else. But because I don't want to make it an hour long. So we'll make it something that people will actually watch, 30 to 40 minutes tops. So, John's account was real simple. John gave the information about the soldiers coming in. He elaborated a little more. He talked about, he focused in on the crowd. He focused in on the soldiers around Judas stepping down and Christ speaking. So he focused on the conversation more than the actions. Obviously, he basically wrapped the actions up as far as Jesus up, which is one word. when he said Judas, who betrayed him. So when he said betrayed him, that's past tense. That means it already happened. And what was the betrayal? What happened with the betrayal? That's when Judas came up and tried to kiss him and all that type of stuff. So John wrapped up all of that and just Judas betrayed him, and then he went on. And how was he betrayed? It was a signal. The signal was a kiss. The traitor was Judas. So we know all that by just John just saying he betrayed him. Okay, so that's just clear. That's just clear. Then he added in on the conversation with Jesus and disciples. But once again, we got to remember, what is a contradiction? It's when two stories oppose each other. They are opposites. If I say I'm black and I contradict that, I would say I'm white. That's the opposite. If I say it is very hot today, if I want to contradict that statement, I would simply say it's very cold today. It has to be the opposite. So nothing happened here that's contradictory. It's just that our ideologies are contradictory, and we want it to be there. And that's called eisegesis. You're putting stuff there that's not there. Exegesis is what I'm doing. I'm just explaining or giving possibilities to the events. I can speak for the disciples. I can speak for them. That's called exegesis. That's called, Dr. West Muhammad said, that's called pulling out from what's there. Eisegesis is putting in there which don't originally belong there. So on that note, we want to wrap it up. I want to thank the brother for.
I can't let that. I can't let that
like
go.
I said, we'll talk.
No.
I just want to end peacefully because I got a client at 7:30. All right. So, Assalamu alaikum to Jamil. Shalom to the people of the Bible, the book, the Hebrew Israelites, the Christians, Islam to the Moors, Hotep to the Kemetic people, Black Power to those RGB supporters, and just peace to the 5%ers and goodbye to everybody else that that joined in to listen on to the discussion. Hold on one second.